you are one of the few people that have seen the Unredacted files. As you've continued to investigate, has anyone pulled you aside? Have there been any threats?
It's not a coincidence that Thomas Massie and I have faced such vociferous opposition from the most powerful people in the nation.
Powerful people outside of the House of Representatives.
Outside of the House of Representatives.
Conspiracy theories about satanic rituals, conspiracy theories about eating babies.
Some of it is conspiratorial and that I've not seen. Some of the behavior that Epstein and these people had was really disgusting and lewd.
You take into account the broken cameras, the guards not correctly conducting their round. It does seem a little bit fishy.
I'd have someone in the Department of Justice on day one be appointed to oversee the Epstein investigation, assign people to oversee the investigation into his death.
The Epstein files have been redacted for way too long, and the public are demanding answers. Today, we are going to talk to a congressman who has seen the unredacted Epstein files. My name's Jakson Buhaj. Let's get right into it. So Congressman Ro Khanna has seen things that many people across the country have not. He's one of the very few congressmen who have walked into the DOJ and have actually seen the mostly unredacted Epstein files firsthand. Now, for those of you who are just catching up, here is where we currently stand with this whole fiasco. Last November, after months of pressure, Ro Khanna and Congressman Thomas Massie forced a vote on the Epstein Files Transparency Act. It passed and was signed into law. The Attorney General at the time, Pam Bondi, had 30 days to release everything. The deadline came and went on December 19th. What the public got instead was a staggered partial rollout. The first batch landed late and arrived with hundreds of pages completely blacked out. Then on January 30th of this year, 3 million more pages, 2,000 videos, 180,000 images by the DOJ's own admission, they identified over 6 million pages as potentially responsive, and half of that is still locked away. So today, I'm sitting down with Congressman Ro Khanna for a wide-ranging conversation about what is in those files, what is being kept from the public, who he believes is being protected, and what comes next. Let's get into it.
Jackson, I'm excited. I do a lot of these interviews, but I haven't done one with TMZ in terms of a lengthy interview, so I'm looking forward to it.
It's my pleasure, honestly.
You guys feeling at home on the Hill?
Oh yeah, I think the shocking thing was how people welcomed us.
Oh, they should welcome you.
Yeah,
people actually watch you.
Yeah, there's a fair share. There's a fair share of people that kind of wanted to keep us at an arm's distance, right?
Only when you're at airports.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Only when we're at airports. But I think just because of, Twitter is a platform where everyone can see what the reception is like. So I think when people in DC and across the country, people in the House of Representatives see how we interact with politicians, I think it kind of opens them up more to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're very happy to be here.
Good.
Now, the Epstein files. What to say about those?
Today we are producing more than 3 million pages, including more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images.
Even though the DOJ released 300,000 files today, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said there are at least a few 100,000 more.
Let's start off. How did you get roped into this? How did you become such a, it's evident that you are involved in this case extensively, especially with the Transparency Act. Talk to me a little bit about that.
It's been the biggest release of Epstein documents in decades, and I never thought we would get to this point. And we still have a lot of work to do to get the remaining documents and to get actual investigations and prosecutions of these men who raped these young girls. I've always had a sense of standing up for justice and transparency. It comes from my grandfather, Amarnath Vidyalankar. He was part of Gandhi's independence movement. He was dedicated 15 years of his life in that struggle. And so when this came to my radar that there were these women who had never faced justice, I wanted to fight for transparency. And I had a person on my team, Sarah Drury, who said, we should do legislation on this. And then Thomas Massie also said, well, if you do this, why don't we partner on this? Thomas and I were leading already the efforts to stop the war in Iran. And so we did this, and people said, oh, they're cranks, they're conspiracy theorists, they're fringe, they're the ones who are always standing up against these wars in the Middle East. Let's just dismiss it. But then we started to get momentum, and one by one, we got people on board. And people say you can never get a discharge petition done, but we did. It's only 5 or 6 since the 1930s that have actually become law. But it became very personal for me when in this office I had survivors here breaking down in tears. One person said it's like a box. You push it down, but it never really goes away. It's a lingering trauma. And that's where I really became emotionally invested, that this is something I'm going to see through, that I want to see justice for the survivors.
The notion that things like the flight logs and the Epstein Files were at one point a conspiracy, where do you think that comes from?
So there's so much conspiracy theories out there, like Pizzagate, and that somehow Secretary Clinton was running a sex trafficking link.
Described Pizzagate as a baseless conspiracy theory, alleging you and others ran a child sex trafficking ring from a Washington pizzeria.
Pizzagate was totally made up. It was an outrageous allegation.
So people said, okay, that's not true, then maybe all of this is not true. But the reality is some of the worst parts of Epstein were true. There were young girls who were raped and abused and trafficked. Many of the world's most famous, powerful, wealthy people participated in either the abuse of these girls, the trafficking of these girls, or in a network which covered it up. And they thought they got to write the rules for their own benefit. And so this Epstein class that I have taken to calling them, they don't play by the same rules as everyone else. And they think that the country is designed for them. And this has really angered people. It's a sense that there are two tiers of justice in America.
Interesting. It's also been interesting to see how, Epstein's grasp was far beyond the United States.
Yeah.
You saw the fallout with people overseas. Ahmed bin Sulayem, you had obviously Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
I just saw the British ambassador today.
Yeah.
He was talking about how it's put Starmer's entire government at risk. And, well, of course, Lord Mendelsohn, who was the ambassador here, taking him out. And the king's brother implicated in possibly a criminal prosecution. Never happened in recent history with the royal family. And so this has had global reverberations, and this sense that there are a group of people who are floating above the law. And it gives a sense at a time where people feel that they're working hard and just not getting by, that the gas is more expensive, food is more expensive, and yet there's such wealth inequality. There's such a role for big money in politics. It's this sense that things aren't fair, that there's a group of wealthy, powerful people who aren't playing by the rules. And this feeds into that intuitive sense most Americans have that the system has been rigged in a way that they aren't getting to participate fairly.
Right. That brings up an interesting point. I think a lot of people have been pointing the finger at President Donald Trump, alleging that he has done heinous things that are detailed within the Epstein Files. Trump aside, you look at a guy like Howard Lutnick, for example, who in 2 weeks will testify before the House, right? Do you think that the list of wealthy people in our government that also had connections to Epstein, people in our government that hold power, go far beyond what the general public are theorizing?
I know they do, because I've talked to the survivors and they've talked about other names involved.
Ranging from the sheer volume of documents released, the volume of names named, and still a continued lack of transparency. Many of us fear that we haven't seen worst of the worst.
Now, there's some names that are out there. Allegedly, Leon Black and Les Wexner, huge allegations, and there haven't been investigations. That's unconscionable. The next president of the United States, on day one, should appoint a special counsel to actually release the remaining files, to prosecute or investigate these individuals, to make sure survivors are being consulted, and to declassify parts of the national security files, which would explain what relationships Epstein had with people around the world.
I want to pick your brain about something, because you're one of the few people that have seen the unredacted files. Obviously not all 3.5 million. Jamie Raskin said it would take you at least 7 years to comb through them all, right?
Well, the other problem is most of them are still redacted. Even the unredacted versions are fully blanked out by the FBI when it comes to the 302 statements, which are the statements the survivors made to FBI agents. So yeah, we saw a little bit more than the general public, but the vast majority was blacked out even for members of Congress.
So that, combined with you walking into the DOJ, there being 4 computers, you only having 2 hours to review them,
Right.
coupled with Donald Trump's acting Attorney General Todd Blanche saying, I will not release one more Epstein file.
Right.
Is the cover-up still continuing?
It is.
And why?
There are powerful people involved. There are unanswered questions about Epstein's links to other governments, to intelligence agencies. I don't know why. But what I do know is that the survivors feel that there isn't justice being done. They want to see the rest of the files released. You know who wants to see the rest of the files released? Britain. Britain has requested the Justice Department for the remaining files so they can prosecute the former prince. And the irony that the rest of the world is taking more seriously a law that 2 American congresspeople, Thomas Massie and I, passed.
So is it intelligence? What is it? Is it a national security risk that these files, like the unredacted files, would pose? Is it, a foreign intelligence agency that was involved with Epstein and the U.S. doesn't want the public to know?
We don't know. I do think that there are legitimate questions to ask about his relationship to domestic and foreign intelligence. There's legitimate questions to ask about other men and who are involved, and are they being protected? Is there a sense that there are powerful people who would be exposed? And there's a question why America is not taking it more seriously in terms of holding these people accountable. Some of these people still have buildings named after them. They still, I was up in Dartmouth. Leon Black's name is all over the building. He has very serious allegations against him. So other nations have taken it more seriously, this abuse. But a lot of the people in this Epstein class have been in America, and we need to take it more seriously. It's one of the biggest scandals of modern history.
Do you think the people are prepared to see the unredacted files? Is it a lot worse than what they currently think?
I said it would shock the conscience of this country. It already has, the 3 million files that have come out. And the worst stuff, I think, still is redacted. The people who are in those redacted files. So I do believe it would be a significant further shock to the country.
What's the worst stuff?
Well, the men who raped or abused or trafficked these young girls. A lot of the statements that the survivors have made to the FBI, that's still in redacted form.
I think it's been really encouraging for the American people to see this bipartisan push. I mean, what you and Massie are doing is fantastic. And I'm wondering that as the House Oversight Committee continues to peel back the layers of this intricate case, what you're hoping to see specifically.
Well, we need to get Pam Bondi to testify to understand what the files are, why they weren't released. We need to work at a bipartisan basis to get everyone to testify who went to Epstein's Island. We need to push for then prosecutions of the men who committed these heinous acts.
It seems to me like you're intimating that people within the Epstein files that are named, documented doing these terrible things still hold places of power within the government. And I'm wondering, as you've continued to investigate, has anyone pulled you aside? Have there been any threats?
Well, not direct threats. I mean, obviously people are upset at me. There are people saying funding opponents, people doing opposition research, people threatening you in terms of online, but they never link it to Epstein. But it's not a coincidence that Thomas Massie and I have faced such vociferous opposition from the most powerful people in the nation.
Opposition research, can you tell me a little bit about what that entails?
Well, people are like trying to go through your life to see anything that they can to embarrass you. They could make things up. They're putting in money into your opponent's races. They are trying to defame your character. People are trying to defeat both Massie and me in our elections.
Is this happening within your own party, or is it primarily the Republican Party that poses the most?
It's actually just the powerful people, and they don't ever say they're doing it because we exposed Epstein. But certainly it never was happening to either Massie or me before we became part of this Epstein fight.
So powerful people outside of the House of Representatives?
Outside of the House of Representatives.
Interesting.
People who have powerful interests.
I hate to even touch on this point, but I think, to be honest, our audience would rip me apart if I didn't. There are so many conspiracy theories around these files. So many. I mean, I don't even know where they begin and end. conspiracy theories of Epstein being an intelligence asset for Russia, for Israel, for the CIA, conspiracy theories about satanic rituals, conspiracy theories about eating babies. Does any of that have any merit? Realistically?
Well, some of it is conspiratorial and that I've not seen. I have not seen any evidence of eating babies. Some of the behavior that Epstein and these people had was really disgusting and lewd. So, you know, there is some truth to just really crazy, heinous things in those files. In terms of the ties to the intelligence agency, I say the same thing that Julie Brown says, the reporter from Miami Herald, that we don't know. There are legitimate questions to be asked. I don't want to stoke a conspiracy because I don't have any information, directly evidence of his links, but I do think they're unanswered questions. And the President of the United States needs to appoint a commission to declassify the information and give the American public an explanation. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? Did he kill himself? What were his ties to our government, to our intelligence or foreign governments? Why did he have so much access to so many foreign leaders?
What does Ghislaine's Maxwell involvement say to you, you know, with regards to her dad being Robert Maxwell and his ties to the KGB and Mossad?
Well, those are unanswered questions again. I mean, it raises serious questions about what links these individuals had to our or other intelligence agencies and governments. I mean, that's, you know, I'm not going to speculate because Massey and I did the files. If we were to say something, it gets taken with a fair amount of authority, and I don't want to stoke rumors, and I'm very careful in everything I say. But what I can say is I have questions about whether he was killed. I have questions about what his relationship is with these agencies, and I have questions about how he had access to so many powerful people around the world.
I spoke to the former prison warden who used to work at the prison where Epstein died. When you take into account the broken cameras, the guards not correctly conducting their rounds and checking on Epstein, it does seem a little bit fishy, you know. Her testimony was, they have a bad budget there. They're very short-staffed. When cameras go down, they don't immediately get fixed. What is your main question revolving around the death of Epstein in that jail?
Well, the question is why? Who had the motive? Why did it happen? If it did happen, why was there not more clarity in terms of suicide? I mean, there were some unexpected things in terms of believing that it was suicide. So I don't know whether it was suicide or he was killed. There just isn't a clear evidence of it, and it needs to be investigated.
How would you go about investigating something like that?
Well, I'd have someone in the Department of Justice on day one be appointed to oversee the Epstein investigation, to make sure that everyone who should be prosecuted, that there was a look at investigation and prosecution and recommendation, to meet with the survivors, to oversee the declassification of national securities to see who Epstein was, whether he had tied to intelligence agencies, and to assign people to oversee the investigation into his death and to put out a report about what it was. So the resources have to be there of the Justice Department to do it.
But with Todd Blanche as acting Attorney General, what's the likelihood of that ever happening?
Very little. We need a new president to do it, but I'm trying to get as much as we can out now. And people say, well, the American people care. They do care. What do you hear? I mean, I think they care about justice. I think they care about whether our government is co-opted by wealthy and powerful people. What happened? They want to know.
I suppose something else, I'm wondering is, and I know you can't speak to this definitely, like you said, your word holds a lot of authority. There are thousands and thousands of pictures of powerful people with young girls, maybe just of the island, maybe of Epstein with friends. I know you can't speculate, but what would the reason be to have a camera out either at his West Palm Beach estate or on the island at all times, it seems?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, the question is, was he just a narcissist who wanted to see pictures of himself with all these important people? Or was he trying to use these pictures to have leverage over very powerful men? And I think those are unanswered questions. It's why the investigation needs to take place.
Where are you at now at this point in your own investigation?
Well, we have the Oversight Committee calling in a lot of people like Bill Gates, like Pam Bondi, to testify, to try to piece together what took place and make recommendations. But nothing will take the place of the Justice Department doing a real investigation and real prosecutions. That's the executive branch. They're the ones who can prosecute. They're the ones who can investigate. They're the ones who can declassify national security information.
Have you lost any political allies recently because of the transparency?
Sure. Well, again, I think it's partly because of my fight against Epstein, but it's also because of my fight to say I don't want aid to Israel and standing up for Gaza, and it's my fight saying I want a billionaire tax. So I've taken on a lot of powerful people, and it's hard to differentiate whether they're against me because I've taken on the Epstein fight, whether they're against me because I've stood up for Gaza, or whether they're against me because I want to tax billionaires. But let me just say that the combination of that has earned me a lot of people who are out to destroy my political career. Not in my personal safety, but in terms of my political career, in terms of going after me politically. That's why people don't raise their head to do these things.
But is your personal safety a real concern when you're speaking out about these things?
So far, it hasn't been for me. I mean, I've been fortunate, but what I've seen is much more just defamatory attacks on social media and money going to my opponents and advertising against me in my district, and people attacking me politically, trying to bring me down politically. But I have not, so far I've been fortunate that I have not had any threats to my personal safety.
Well, that's good to hear. When you say that we need a new president, I want to touch on that briefly. There's been a lot of talk about invoking the 25th Amendment. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
I support it, and I started to support it when Donald Trump said that we need to eliminate Iran. I mean, who says that? Kings and dictators don't talk about taking out a civilization. And then you have the Pope having to speak out against the American president. I mean, John F. Kennedy 70 years ago said that he would not take orders from the Pope. The next American president just needs to say that they will listen to the Pope. I mean, how far we have sunk, that we have the Pope saying that the American president is threatening crimes against humanity. So that's when I said this has gone on too far. We need a 25th Amendment. And Americans, we think of ourselves as the good guys. Yeah. We're the ones who fought Nazism. We defeated communism. We helped rebuild Europe with the Marshall Plan. We weren't perfect and have made mistakes in Latin America, but FDR had the good neighbor policy saying we shouldn't have military interventions, we should have economic development. And what Trump has done is erode that moral credibility, that sense of leadership about freedom and human rights around the world.
In your opinion, why do you think we're so loyal to Israel in terms of giving them all this money?
Well, it's been a mistake. We've had, in my view, a politics that has been too influenced by super PAC money, not just AIPAC, but also other super PACs that have prevented us from getting Medicare for all because of big pharma and insurance companies. Super PACs that have given us a bloated defense budget because of the defense contractors spending. Super PACs that have provided tax breaks for the billionaires or allowing them not to have regulations on AI because of the money they're spending. So the corruption of the political process is a huge issue. And I do think it has skewed policy in being too much of a blank check for our relationship with Israel.
Do you think the American government is too far gone because of how unraveled it is in corruption right now?
No, because I believe in citizen movements. I believe that we've seen tougher days as Americans. We saw the Civil War where we were fighting slavery. We saw Nazism. We saw John Lewis' picture above on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, was beaten there. So we're the inheritors of great freedom movements and struggles. But we see a economic system that has been corrupted, a political system that's been corrupted. And the other thing that a new American president needs to do is not just talk about overturning Citizens United, but call a constitutional convention. If 2/3 of the Congress does not vote to overturn that, then call the states to do that. And you can get 2/3 of the states actually to introduce the amendment to overturn money in politics and start a conversation around this country about getting rid of that money in politics.
Americans have seen tougher days. and this might be my naivety just speaking through me, but at least I can speak for the people of my generation. Have we seen tougher days? I mean, you know, AI is running rampant in the job market. The cost of living continues to rise. We're hearing all of these things in the headlines about people in our government potentially being pedophiles, people with billions and billions of dollars who are actually running the country.
Right.
We're at war with Iran, right? And I'm wondering, you know, what your message would be to someone my age.
Well, the American dream does seem out of reach for someone your age, and that's why we need to have a bold new vision. First, we need to make sure that AI works for people, not just for these tech billionaires. One of my proposals, modeled after FDR, is to have a Work for America program where right after high school, right after college, you can get a job to rebuild your communities, to come to the federal government, hire 1 million young people rebuilding America and paying them a good wage so that you're dealing with the anxiety of jobs. Second proposal I have is to say that there need to be human beings bargaining for the jobs, not just tech using AI to automate. So we need policy that actually addresses the anxieties that you have. We need to tax these billionaires. We need to make sure that we're doubling housing in terms of the construction, capping rents, taking on the landlords. That we need to make sure that we are making college, trade schools free, so people aren't graduating with this debt. And we've got to stop these wars. You can't be anti-war and then be voting for increased defense budgets. You can't be anti-war and then be talking about the need to have regime change in Iran. So I think that we have a progressive vision, a bold new deal that can emerge. And that's been the history of this country. After the Civil War, we had the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. After Hoover, we had FDR. After the George W. Bush, we had Barack Obama. We need another sort of vision, moral leadership in this country that gives faith to young people. And I think when you see Zohran Mamdani, who did that in New York, or Anna Lilia, who did that in New Jersey, you see people responding to it.
I like that you brought up John F. Kennedy earlier, because I feel like we as a country still haven't gotten to the bottom of his assassination. And so I'm wondering where the hope comes from that we'll get to the bottom of something like Epstein.
Well, it's probably going to be with us for a long time. That's the candor of it, because the rich and powerful people abused the system to rape young girls, and a lot of them got away with it. Some of them, by the way, gave up their American citizenship or left this country and went to places where they know they can't be prosecuted. So, you know, some of them have fled American jurisdiction. So we're never going to have closure. But what we can do is have a concerted effort. The American people don't expect perfection. They don't expect that every person who raped these young girls or trafficked is going to be prosecuted. They expect effort. They expect initiative. And what has angered them is that there hasn't been a single investigation and prosecution, that there are 3 million files that still have been not released, that the administration has fought tooth and nail at every point to hide these. And what transparency and elite accountability will start to restore people's faith in the democratic project.
The question I have to wrap this interview up is, what can the American people expect the conclusion of this investigation to be?
The conclusion needs to be who all raped or abused these young girls. Even if it's tough to prosecute them at this point, a real accountability of everyone. For those who can be prosecuted, here are the steps we're taking to prosecute them and hold them accountable. Here is what we're doing to explain who Jeffrey Epstein was and what his connections were, either to our intelligence or government or foreign governments. Here's why Jeffrey Epstein was able to meet so many world leaders. And here's what we're going to do to make sure this never happens in America again. In that sense of cleansing, that sense that we don't have a government corrupted by the elite, that we then can have a social movement to build things so that government works for people like your generation. So you say, okay, yeah, they're doing something so I can have a good job. Yeah, they're doing something so I don't have college debt. Yeah, they're doing something so if I have a family, I don't have to pay $15,000 for childcare. Yeah, they're doing something so I can actually buy a house, get some down payment to buy a house, or so I don't have to pay $3,000 on rent for a studio. I mean, these are the things that the government needs to be doing. Instead, while we've been sidelined and watch wealth concentrate in the hands of a few billionaires, while an entire generation feels the American dream is dead. And the reason I'm passionate about this is my parents came from India to the United States for the American dream. I was born in Philadelphia in our bicentenary. We're coming up to 250 years. This country gave me so much. I got to go to a good school. I had to take out too many loans for higher education, but I got to go to a doctor whenever I wanted, a dentist whenever I wanted. I lived in a safe community. And people in Bucks County, Pennsylvania said, Ro, you can do anything in America. I just want that. I want that for every young person in this country. And there's no reason we can't do it when we're producing more wealth than ever in the history of humanity. My district produces more wealth than probably has ever been produced in any zip code in the history of humanity. $20 trillion originates out of my district. 5 companies, it's over $1 trillion. And you're telling me that we can't get good paying jobs for your generation and healthcare and childcare and housing and education?
It's ridiculous. You're
It's ridiculous.
preaching to the choir.
I mean, we need a TMZ constituency for political change.
We do, yeah.
A social movement led by TMZ. That's why I'm glad you're here. Because the traditional publications, they're all important. I'm not dismissing them, but that's not how you're going to build a social movement. Your viewers can build a social movement. They can say, look, we demand more from our government. This is the only check on capital having free reign. We want something better. They can do that.